Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are. I want to talk to this evening about the problem of ZANU-PF rhetoric. Many of us would remember when in the wake of the 2017 military coup, when Mnangagwa promised that Zimbabwe was open for business. The mantra that he promoted, went all out to promote, turned out to be just an empty rhetoric. He thought that the military coup, which ended Robert Mugabe's years in power, 37 years, and it ended the country, the pariah state. The military coup and his replacement of Mugabe ended the pariah state. He promised that there will be free and fair elections, and no corruption. And he was so confident of his measures that they will open the door to attract investors and lenders to Zimbabwe, which had been isolated, and the economy was in a serious state. And that's why he launched Zimbabwe is open for business, and they expected the investors to flood in. Of course, they did not. They were not to be so easily fooled. They knew that this was just musical chairs. Mnangagwa replacing Mugabe. The regime was still the same. So it's just musical chairs. One or two people have been replaced, including the dictator himself, only to be replaced by another dictator. So they were not fooled. And so when he failed to keep his promise to end corruption and to hold free and fair elections, that sealed it. You know, no investors came. The economy was still in serious trouble. It took about 2 years for that political reality to finally sink in his own head. And so the propagandists had to go back to the drawing board to come up with a new solution. And the new solution was, instead of Zimbabwe's economy being revived by a flood of foreign investors, the regime decided, no, it will be rebuilt by its own people. And hence, the famous Nyika, inovakwa, nevenevayo slogan was born. And ever since these last 3 years, he has hammered it in at every opportunity. Well, the evidence that Zimbabweans would rebuild the country was already there for those who wanted to see it. The country was already in a serious economic situation. And most of the people who had any investment at all had been wiped out by the decades of gross mismanagement and corruption. And with the country still being a pariah state, even if there was somebody who was outside the country who would want to go back and invest in the country, you still hesitate. Zimbabwe is still a pariah state. And the recent article showing that the number of Zimbabweans leaving the country has in fact been going up only serves to confirm what we've been saying all along. In 2000, last year, according to this report, 8,363 Zimbabweans left the country, up from 499 in 2019. What we have got to remember here is that most of these people who are leaving the country will be skilled or semi-skilled. And it's not only the UK that Zimbabweans are targeting. Many skilled Zimbabweans have left the country for South Africa, Botswana, Australia, Canada, and many other countries. The hemorrhage of skilled manpower has been absolutely unbelievable since the economic collapse starting in 2000. So one has got to ask, how then is Zimbabwe rebuilding the country when it is losing so many manpower? 2 years ago, the ZANU-PF government itself admitted that up to 80%, there was a shortage of up to 80% of skilled manpower in strategic areas such as engineering, education, health, and agriculture. And most of these people are leaving because they really have no choice. Those in education and health, which one can say there are always employment opportunities there, are leaving because of the slave wages. Those in engineering and other sectors, which need, most of them would have to be employed as in the private sector, are leaving because the country's economy is all but collapsed. Most of these big industries, like Zimalloys, Zimasco, Sebo Chemicals, and many others, have either completely closed or have reduced their production to the point where the number of engineers required is the bare minimum. So if Zimbabweans are leaving the country in droves, and the few who have remained, they're unemployed, in fact. There are many skilled Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe today who are unemployed. So one has got to then ask, who is building the country then? Mnangagwa keeps boasting about Zimbabwe will be built by Zimbabweans. Who are the people who are rebuilding the country? The truth is, this is just another empty ZANU-PF Mnangagwa rhetoric. Just as empty as Zimbabwe is open for business. Zimbabwe is in a serious economic situation. And that situation is not going to improve until there is meaningful political change in the country. As long as Zimbabwe remains a pariah state ruled by corrupt, incompetent, and vote-rigging thugs, there will be no economic recovery. This slogan of Zimbabwe will be rebuilt by Zimbabweans. It's just a slogan. Nothing will come out of it. The country's economic collapse will continue. Schools have reached a point now where they have no skilled teachers. Some of their results are really pathetic. Many of the rural schools, funded by government, their pass rates have fallen to zero. Hospitals and clinics, forget it. They have no staff, there's no medicine. Roads and basic infrastructure, they're in a deplorable state. The rot will continue until there is meaningful political change in Zimbabwe. No amount of rhetoric and slogans will change that reality. We had the opportunity to change, to end the pariah state, to bring in the confidence of investors and local Zimbabweans who have left the country to go back by holding free, fair, and credible elections and restore confidence that this Zimbabwe is a stable country by holding free, fair, and credible elections in this coming year, 2023. But already we are heading for another rigged election. We can't even produce a verified voters roll. How can you have a meaningful election when you don't even have a verified voters roll? The fact that the opposition is insisting on participating in this election is another unfortunate reality to the political situation in Zimbabwe, where the ruling party is now working in cahoots with the opposition to maintain the status quo. Chamisa and company know ZANU-PF is rigging these elections. They are participating because they also know that ZANU-PF is giving away a few gravy train seats, and they find those irresistible. That's why they're participating. They also know that by participating, they're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy, but they don't care. It is for the Zimbabweans, ordinary Zimbabweans, to really open up their eyes and reject this system. We can't carry on like this. Zimbabwe is in a serious economic situation. Mnangagwa is not rebuilding anything. He's just slowly but systematically destroying what is there. Zimbabwe's economic meltdown will continue. And we'll keep on hearing more and more of the same rhetorical, meaningless slogans. Like Zimbabwe is open for business. Nyika inovakwa nevenevayo. Which I think even from Mnangagwa must realize that too is now a lead balloon that will never take off. You don't have economic recovery when you don't have skilled manpower. And they are losing all your skilled manpower on a daily basis. And the new generation of students who are coming in, they're so poorly educated to the point where somebody who has done A level does not even know what a verb is. That is a level of education that we are giving the next generation. How are you going to rebuild a country when you can't communicate? when he cannot take advantage of the sciences because of poor education impacting on those children. It's not their fault. Most of them have no qualified teachers at all. And yet, year after year, they're just being pushed on to the next level, next level, next level. And no wonder at the end of their O levels, not even one of them come out with a pass. What a waste of time. What a waste of humanity. But this is the problem in Zimbabwe. We really have to wake up to this reality. And the best way to do so is to make sure that these elections that we all know are being rigged, that we all know opposition is participating out of greed, must not produce a legitimate government. We must see to it that no one, particularly SADC leaders, do not rubber stamp this meaningless election process and give ZANU-PF legitimacy and thus perpetuate the dictatorship. The solution we want is that ZANU-PF should be denied legitimacy so that there is another GNU, and out of that GNU, this time we'll implement the democratic reforms, clean up this mess, drain this sewage pond, what we call our political system, and refill it with clean water. And only then can we have quality leaders. At the present moment, we are fishing in a sewage pond. You cannot expect to catch any fish there. Probably catch frogs and catfish that are able to come up to the surface and breathe air, because there's no air dissolved in sewage waste like that. We need to clean up our political system. Reform is the only way of cleaning it. And this is becoming more urgent than ever before. This country cannot carry on with this circus, this madness. 43 years of rigged elections in this day and age. That's an outrage. Surely we know what constitutes free, fair, and credible election. This election is not going to be free, fair, and credible. So why are we accepting it? That is my message tonight. Thank you very much and good night.